Hey everyone, so I know it's been a long time since I made a video and I'm filming a little bit differently, so if I'm looking off somewhere, it's weird. I don't know where to look or what to do. Anyway, I'm making this video because I recently went to Rose City Comic Con. It actually just happened this past weekend, and it wasn't what I expected. I made sure to write some bullet notes, so in case I look down here, that's what I'm doing, making sure I go over everything, because that was a mess. I don't know what they think they were doing. Okay, so it started, I went on Friday, and I went later in the day because there was nothing really that I needed to see earlier, and it was a bit of a drive. So I was like, it's fine. I'll go later. That's when a panel I want to see is, and then I can also get a couple autographs. So I get there, and first they had everybody walk all the way around the building to get into general admission area when you could have just walked straight. Like, all the other people were just walking straight. So not only did they have you walk all the way around, but you get to where the entrance is, and they make you walk basically all the way back where you started anyway to get through this, like, metal gate thing to go and follow the metal gate path down. And there were some sections that didn't have a metal gate, and they just had this, like, red plastic tape stuff up. And I asked if I could just go under, because why am I going to walk almost an entire block just to go back right here? I'm here. She said no, I couldn't do that. So I went all the way back up. Literally, I walked around this block for no freaking reason. I walked all the way up to go in, and I saw tons of people going under right in front of the lady. And did she stop them? No, she just, okay, go ahead. So that was the first annoyance, and I hadn't even gotten in the building yet. So I get inside, and while they said, put your metal stuff over this railing because you're going to go through a metal detector, there was no metal detector. So I don't know what they were talking about. They didn't check my bag. They didn't check my badge because this place did not have a welcome bag. Like, whenever I've gone to conventions, they include a lanyard and a bag has, like, the program and with the schedule and a map, stuff like that inside of it. And then adverts, usually. But you get the basics. They didn't include any of that stuff. You just get a plastic badge, and I didn't have anywhere to hang it, so I said, forget it, I'm going to put it in my purse. No one asked for my badge. No one. I could have been Joe Schmo off the street. I wasn't in a costume or anything. So no one asked. Just went inside. I shouldn't have paid money. Should have just gone in. No one. So I go in, and the panel that I'm going to be going to is in like an hour and a half. So I figure grab a couple autographs and then go wait in line. I'm one person. Usually there's groups, so I can sneak in because people want to leave a space. And so I'll just take up that space. I don't care. So I don't mind going up a little bit later. So I go to the autograph area, and I see that they have a booth that says that's where you buy autographs, but I've never seen that before. So I asked this pair, the staff pair that's standing, I think they help regulate lines for autographs. First I asked them where a room was, because the map made no sense. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. Because I was looking for room 1 for panels, and there was no room 1 on this map. Nothing. So I asked them where room 1 was, and they go, well, which room? Room 1? Okay, but which one? The room 1? Not 2, but 1? And she has no idea. She's like, okay, but what panel is it? I was like, Robert Englund panel. Yeah, I didn't even know there was going to be one. Okay. Well, can you look at the map and maybe you can see what I'm missing? Because maybe I'm just blind. And he's looking and she's looking. No one has any idea what's going on. And they're like, oh, okay, I see the panels. And then the guy kind of trails off. He's like, okay, so I see panel room 2 to 7, but no 1. And I tell them, I think maybe the main stage is room 1, but it doesn't say that. So I don't want to walk all the way there just to find out that I was wrong and it's basement level kind of thing. I don't know. And finally he's like, yeah, it's probably going to be main stage. okay. And I was like, okay, so how will I get there? And he's like, you go out these doors right here, and then there's some stairs, and you go up those stairs, and they're right there. Just right there. So I'm like, okay. And then I also asked them, I'm not sure how you guys are doing things. Like, do I have to pre-buy the autographs, or can I just go up and pay the people? And they're like, for like voice talent, you can just go up and pay them, but everybody else, you have to go buy the pass, basically. And I'm just like, I've never had that before, like pre-purchase, but okay. So I go over and I wait in line, and I see that a couple people that I'd wanted to get autographs for was just sitting there while I was in line. So I'm waiting and I'm waiting. Finally, it's my turn, and I go up, and he's telling me different times that I have to come back the next day. And I'm like, okay, but the person I wanted an autograph was sitting over there. There's no time left. And he is just like, who did you want an autograph for? And by that time, the whole time I've been waiting in line, it took almost 20 minutes. Guy had left. And he's just like, well, he's not there now, so no. So I set up these times. He tells me that I have to be there 15 minutes before the time, but that I'm guaranteed an autograph at that time, that the person will be there. So I'm like, okay. And then he tells me the total, and they're charging me 10% more than the autograph. 10%, which adds up, especially if that's why you're going there. You're getting a bunch of autographs. 10% will add up. I mean, if you got $300 worth of autographs, that's $30. That could be somebody else's autograph. That could be 3 art prints. That could be a statue that you want. That's money. Like, that's not something to just snub your nose at. So I was kind of confused as to why I was being charged 10%, because online it's 8%. So I get my receipt, and my receipt says on it that I was being charged 8%, and I was only charged $5.70. That was included. That's not how math works, my friend. If an autograph is $30 and an autograph is $40, and I'm being charged $7 in tax, that does not equate to $5.70, 8%. That is 10. I can math. That the lies this receipt is telling me. So, because also, like, how are you going to say that $5.70 was included? Are you trying to tell me that you did charge me 8% and these other celebrities are charging like $41 or $32.20? Like, that wouldn't even make sense. And taxes I wouldn't have to pay tax at all because I was in Oregon. In Oregon, you don't pay tax. That was just a service fee. A service fee that turns out I didn't even need to pay. Like, why? How is this a service? So I found out later. I might be upset still. So I figure most of my time is wasted. I go think about the exhibit area, which was just, that was a whole clusterfuck. Like, there was so much, like, it made no sense. The layout was horrible. I ended up finding a booth that had these little decals that I liked. I was going to go back. Couldn't find it the very next day. I don't know how I got there. I think I warped into, the Twilight Zone, came back. That booth was gone. I don't know. And the map doesn't tell you where the exhibitors are because that's what you need the program for. So I go to my panel and I get there and the panel's great. So and then I leave because what's the point? It was near the end of the convention for the day anyway. So I go home, and that did mean going all the way back to Washington. So then it's time for the next day, and my first autograph had to be at noon. That's what time I was told. Well, noon or 12:10, I can't remember. And then I had a panel at 12:50. So I get there at the time that the autograph was at noon exactly. So I had almost an hour to get through this. So I was told to be there at that exact time so that then I was guaranteed to go before anybody paying cash. That didn't happen. It was just a free-for-all. You get in line and people with the passes had to wait. So, that's when I met Jason Marsden. He is lovely. He's very nice. I guess it turns out quite a few people had actually been asking for Dash X from Erie, Indiana. And he didn't have any, unfortunately. So I got Thackeray Binks instead. And I mean, it's still great. I love Hocus Pocus. And he said that he asked if I was going to watch it for Halloween. And I was like, yeah, that and Halloween Town are like staples. And he said, good, because when you do, a witch doesn't need a child. So, you know, he plays up. He's great. I like when people still kind of, you know, interact. He's, yeah, nice guy. So I then rushed to my panel because my panel begins in like 20 minutes and it's a Princess Bride panel. So I knew the line was going to be long. I did not realize how long it was going to be because they had a weird, they had a priority line that went up weird. And then they had filled the line room in this other room. And then they had overflow in this other section. And so people weren't sure where to go. And so we like, I guess, passed the actual end of the line. And the person who was supposed to be there, like herding us like cattle to this line, wasn't paying attention. He's like, oh, if you guys are looking for the line, it's actually over here. You had one job. You had one job. So we all get in line. And I don't think they fed the group that had been waiting longer over here first, because I got in, there were still tons of seats. So I got in and I got as close as you could get without having priority seating. And because I just filled in spaces, like why wouldn't you? So the panel was great. Wallace Shawn came on first, and then it was Carrie Elwes and Chris Sarandon together. And they shared a bunch of stories. I felt bad because everybody kept complimenting Carrie and they weren't paying enough attention to Chris. They kept bringing up how Carrie was in Psych and they loved it. Chris Sarandon was in Psych too, okay? It was a small part, but he was still in it, okay? So the panel was great. We all left. I had to then get downstairs. I kind of meandered around the exhibit hall for a bit. And then I had been told by someone that they were accepting cash at the autograph booths. So I decided to go check. And sure enough, every single person was accepting cash. I was told maybe the voice cast would, like the vocal talent, but regular actors, you had to buy the ticket ahead of time. It just wasn't true. That wasn't true. So I was a bit upset with wasted time and money because I could have gotten it, like, okay, so I already had to pay $33 to go meet Jason Marsden. He was charging $40 to get an autograph and a selfie. I would have much preferred to give him my money to get a selfie, but I couldn't afford it then at that point because while it would have been a $7 difference, he wasn't going to price adjust because that $3 didn't go to him. That went to those freaking crooks who lied so that they could get money. So unfortunately, I couldn't give him more money. I would have liked to, but I couldn't. So I then went to, who did I go to next on Saturday? Oh, I didn't even mention, when I went to go to the panel, they told me just right up the stairs. It wasn't. It was actually up another set of stairs after that was around a corner. And then you had to go down a hallway and then around a corner again to find it. If I just followed groups of people that seemed to be going to somewhere important, because otherwise I wouldn't. How would I know? There were no signs. There was no like panel room 1 this way. Nothing. I had no idea. So that was back on Friday when I figured out that they didn't tell me the right directions. But on Saturday, they did finally put down tape, probably because enough people were complaining, like, how are we supposed to know where to go? They still didn't have anything down at the bottom by the stairs to tell you that you need to go up another flight of stairs. But they did have tape on the floor of the 3rd floor at that point. So let's see. After I was there, went to the panel. Then I waited in Robert Englund's line, and he was really nice. He shook my hand. Unfortunately, people don't seem to understand how serpentine lines work, and while I was following the line, these other people kept going straight, just like in a straight line. So they kept cutting people, and I was kind of annoyed because they ended up cutting me. Whatever. It's a Robert Englund line, Freddy Krueger, obviously someone's getting cut. Anyway, so we get up there, or I get up there, and I got to chat with Robert Englund. He was nice. I told him that, well, I grew up on horror movies, so not a lot of horror movies scare me. But Nightmare on Elm Street did actually scare me when I first saw it, and even now, it kind of has the creep factor, especially when he's, like, running down the alleyway. It's creepy. It looks wrong. And there's something about weird body movements that creep me out. So that was creepy. And he actually, like, talked to me about it. He said it's because that a lot of movies were kind of more just focused on, like, sex appeal or, like, cheesy graphics, but they focus mostly on what the kid would actually experience, so you're kind of more stuck. He said it was specifically, I was creeped out because I was a girl, and I put myself in her shoes, which I don't think is what happened, but I'm not going to argue with the person who made the character come to life. I'm not gonna. So I got to chat with him for a bit. He was really nice. Then I left to go, I had to quickly go to see Pauly Shore because that's when my next ticket time was. And I get there and he's not there. And there's a helper, probably his handler. And I ask, I'm like, okay, so I have a thing. Did I miss my time period? Like, should I have been here earlier? And he was like, oh no, the time on there doesn't make any difference. You can get here whenever. That's basically like cash, just whenever. He has a panel, or not a panel, he had a photo thing coming up, but his photo thing wasn't until 4:40. So, and it was 4 o'clock. So I don't know. Maybe he was just taking a break. I don't know. And I was like, oh, that's weird because they told me I had to be here at this exact time and that it was guaranteed that he'd be here. That's why the times were on here. And he was just looked like he blanked for a second. He's like, well, that's weird because that's not true at all. He was like, okay, so come back at 4:40 and then you can line up and wait until he gets back from his photo shoot. So I was like, okay, fine. I go dink around more. I come back at 4:40 to get in line. And there were people, like other, like staff, helpers. They were like kind of standing almost blocking it. So I was like, it's okay if I line up to wait until he gets back, right? And they're like, well, he's not here. You can come back in a bit. He's at a photo shoot right now. And I'm like, oh, okay, that guy told me to come back at 4:40 and just wait in line. She's like, let me go talk to him because I don't think you're supposed to line up. So she goes to talk to him. He comes out and he even says, like I told you, he won't be back until he has a photo shoot at 4:40. So if you want to try back after that, I'm like, okay, but I thought I was supposed to line up to wait until he got back because of that. Like that, because that was literally what he said. Now I'm being contradicted by the people saying the same thing. I was so frustrated. It was a thing. So, and he's like, because I called him on it in front of people. And he was like, oh yeah, I guess if you want to wait, you can wait. So I go to sit, and he actually brought me a chair, which was nice. So I sat and waited. And Pauly Shore showed up only like 15 minutes later, so he must not have had a lot of people to get through for that photo shoot. And I was disappointed in meeting Pauly Shore. I thought he'd be kind of cool and talk a bit, and he's kind of was just not. Maybe he was probably tired, but I mean, so were we, and I had waited. I even let people cut because they were part of ADA, and I'm not about to say, no, you can't let the people with disabilities and special needs cut in front of me. Of course you can. And so I was waiting even longer. So finally I get up there and I buy an extra one for my mom. And so, because you can pay cash there, as it turns out. So I picked out mine, and I picked out the one for my mom, and I told him the names to put on there, and he just scribbled them on and just handed. But as I was picking out the pictures, he had taken Pringles, and he was offering Pringles to the people in line behind me. Not me. I don't get a freaking chip. I waited here longer than any of them, and they all get Pringles to share. Whatever. So, and he didn't shake my hand. He didn't say hi. He didn't say thank you. It was very much like a conveyor belt. It was disappointing, But I know some people are like that. My most disappointing one had up until that point had been James Marsters, and even he wasn't bad. He just, he just said hi, shook my hand, that's it. But I was kind of spoiled because I had just talked to Andy Hallett, and he was silly and fun. I was 14, and he was just, he made fun of me, but in a nice, goofy way. It was fine. So, like, that was it. The briefest one I had had before was just a handshake and a hi. But at least it was that, but this time is nothing. It was just like, name, and he had signed first, and he was like, name, and he like filled in the blank space for name. He didn't even change pens, even though blue kind of made sense on the one my mom got, but made no sense on the one I got. Hate blue Sharpie on autographs, but whatever. I'm not the talent. Do whatever. So then I left and I got in line for Carrie Elwes because I was told to check back at 5 because they had like soft closed the line. I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, so I go back and it turns out I could get in line, but he had overflow. So I went and got an overflow, but we were told to talk to some gal with blue and purple hair. We couldn't see her. This other gal and I were looking for her. So I go searching because she and I are both lost. And I find her. She's so short, and she was blending in with people. We couldn't see her. So I ask where we should be lining up, and I get in line, but then I also back up to go tell the gal who is also, she's like, I would never have guessed to go over here. This makes no sense. And I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. So we get in line, but we're barely moving. And I see that Chris Sarandon's line is pretty clear. He has a short line. And so I asked the gal if she'll hold my space in line so I could go and wait in Chris's line. And she said, sure. So I got to go in his line, and it went really fast. And by the time I was done with Chris Sarandon, who also, very nice guy, he gave me a fist bump. I was expecting to shake his hand. I'm used to shaking people's hands. But he wanted a fist bump, whatever. He was really nice. He seemed happy that I got a Child's Play autograph instead, because while I love Princess Bride, I will always be a horror fan above all else. So obviously I wanted that. Unfortunately, he only had one picture, and it was the picture of the poster, not of him in the role. I really wish he had one of him in the role, but whatever. The poster's fine. I have a bunch of autographs on like mini posters in a setup, and so it'll just go with those. So I go back in line, and we had moved up barely anything. But then she gets called ahead of me because I had let her, I was like, since she held my spot, she didn't need to. I wasn't going to take a spot in front of her. So I was like, I'll just be behind you. I don't mind. And so she actually gets called ahead because she had kids. They were really nice. They were cycling people through that were like special needs, or, basically like on airplanes. If you have a kid, you go ahead of people. I don't mind because kids can be impatient. I understand. So then I'm waiting through this line. Finally, we get to the main part, and everybody starts sitting down. And it turns out there was a photo shoot that now all of them had to go to. So they were going to be gone for like 20 minutes to half an hour. And so I was like, oh. I saw Will Wheaton's line was kind of open, and my mom had really wanted an autograph of Will Wheaton. And I had just got a 5x7 art print for her that was like in the 80s style, and it says "Shut up, Wesley," and Wesley looks sad on it. So she didn't know that I was going to go get it autographed. So I asked the people again, I mentioned the line, and they're like, we'll go get in that line, and then you could always like jump back. So I got in that line, and I made friends over there. And the guy behind me really thought it was funny that I was going to have it signed, and he wanted to see his reaction and what he would do. So I made friends, but then Carrie's line opened up again, and they were like gesturing me to come back, like I needed to be there. So I was like, shoot, okay. So I went over to that one, but I had also made friends with staff in Will's line. So she was like, I'll make sure you get to your spot. So I go to Carrie's, I go through Carrie's line. It was really fast. He was also lovely. He shook my hand and then also insisted that he asked if he could hug me. I'm going to say he insisted on it. He downright needed a hug from me to last throughout the day. So who was I to deny him? Okay. So he was really nice. I got to compliment his role and that I think he's works really good. Obviously a fan. We waited in the line. Although that's some people waiting in line, not fans. I'll talk about that in a bit. So then I leave and I check the line for Will Wheaton, and the person that I was in front of hadn't moved much after they joined the main group, because we were in overflow for a second. So I go over there and I'm like, okay, I'm back. And so I get up there and I get Will Wheaton's autograph. He's really nice. He shakes my hand. He didn't talk much. So I told him, it's for my mom. She really wanted this signed. And so he signs it and he says, be nice to Wesley. It was cute. So I left. I showed the guy behind me real quick, and I showed the gal. She was so excited that I made it back in line in time. I don't know why. She was like, I don't know why I'm so excited that you got back. And I'm just like, it's like a race. Will she, won't she? So then I went to Wallace Shawn's line, and his line was like really short at that point because it was nearing the end of the day. Like they were going to close in like an hour, maybe less. So I get into his line. The person I'm behind, I can already kind of tell something was off because of what he had in his bag and what he was carrying and the camera he had. So I'm talking to the gal behind me. There's a line that starts to like build up behind. The guy happens to mention that Mandy Patinkin is going to be in Yakima for a concert and that he's going to go see if he can get him to sign stuff. And so now I want to go see if I can meet Mandy Patinkin. Not even gonna lie. I don't want to go to Yakima, but I want to meet Mandy Patinkin. So I think I'm going to go to Yakima. And so then, it comes up somehow about how certain celebrities wouldn't sign without a name because they didn't want people to resell. So this guy mentions that he told the person his name is Justice, so that Adam West would sign his autograph to Justice. And I'm getting the feeling that this guy is a reseller. I don't know for sure, but that seemed really suspicious. But maybe he's like some people who just, in case they wanted to have a rainy day fund, basically. They wanted it for the experience, but what if their house burnt down? They only were able to save their autographs and they needed to sell stuff in order to rebuild. Fine. So I kind of zone out for a second. We're talking to other people, and these people brought attention that Zachary Levi was going to be leaving in a second, and if you wanted an autograph, you had to hurry up. This kid, and he's like 12, maybe 13, shouts to Zachary Levi about how he loves him and he was great in Psych and how he loved his voice in Rapunzel, Tangled, and he really liked seeing him in Shazam because there was explosions and then you were able to do this and it was so cool. And Zachary Levi was like, I know, I was in it. And it was so cute. It was funny. And so, when the guy went up to meet Wallace Shawn, he had picked something, just a random picture of him from Toy Story. Also, I forgot to mention, he had asked if I was a big Princess Bride fan. I was wearing Princess Bride pens. And so the fact that he didn't notice that was kind of suspicious. And he was like, what character did he play in Princess Bride? And so I told him, and he was like, even asked me how it's spelled. And it was weird. And then he was like, actually, I'll get Toy Story. He didn't know his character in Toy Story. When he got up to Wallace Shawn, he asked Wallace, is there a line that you particularly liked that your character said in Toy Story that you want to put on there? Because he didn't know any. And the guy buying it didn't know any. So Wallace Shawn was just like, he's like, I could put Roar. And so he did. And it turns out he was also sneaking pictures on his camera, which you're not allowed to do, to be verified that he was signing. And then he had also paid for selfies, but it was supposed to be one selfie. And I was like, the person took really good pictures right away, but she was making sure that the banner was in the frame. so that they were in the frame and then the banner was also in the frame. But that's not what the guy wanted. He wanted evidence that it was autographed. So he asked, he saw the pictures. She took a bunch of pictures. He saw the angle and then he was like, could you aim down so it's more us so that the autograph would be in the frame? And she would take more pictures and then he'd come around, no, that's not good enough. And poor Wallace was so patient. These people must have took 40 pictures for this guy. And I'm not even overestimating. I'm probably underestimating this. So I turned to the gal behind me and I'm just kind of like, I'm pretty sure he's a reseller and he's being rude. And she's just like, I know I saw him sneaking the pictures. And she was just like, she was getting upset too. And she's just like, pat my arm, basically like, we can't freak out. I wasn't going to freak out, but I'm just kind of like, so then it was my turn. Wallace, another lovely person. He seemed thrilled that anybody would go and see him. He was very humble. When he was talking at the panel, he was going on about how he considers acting still almost like a hobby, where it's just kind of this fun thing that he happens to get paid for, and it's not really a job to him. It's something that he does, also with life kind of thing. I don't know really how to explain it as well as he did, but, it was sweet. He was nice. He wrote, so good to meet you on mine instead of a quote. Would I have liked a quote? Sure, that would have been nice, but I think it's more personal when they write stuff like that. So good to meet you. Thanks for, coming. That kind of thing. It was nice. He invested. I forgot to mention, almost every celebrity that I talked to loved my pens. Jason Marsden was like, he had to take a second to like investigate. He was like, excuse me for a second, I have to look at all your pens. You have great pens, and I love pens. So he just took a minute. He's like looking at all my pens. Unfortunately, I didn't have any Hocus Pocus pens because I haven't found ones I liked. I also didn't have any Freddy Krueger ones, also because I haven't found any I liked. I'm picky. So Robert Englund really liked them. Carrie Elwes spotted the Princess Bride ones. I had a couple on this side and one up here, but it kind of gets covered with the collar, so people usually miss that one. And he loved them. He's like, oh, look at that. He like, because I have one that's like a police lineup with Andre the Giant and Mandy Patinkin and Wallace Shawn all on it. And so yeah, Wallace Shawn also liked all my buttons. It was nice. It was a little conversation starter. So even though I was dying because it was really warm in most places, it was also nice because everybody seemed interested in all the buttons that I had. And I still haven't even put all the ones that I have on it. So anyway, so yeah, talked to Wallace. Then I left, and that was the end of the convention. It was shutting down, and I left. And yeah, that was my journey at Rose City Comic Con. So I had fun because I got to meet people and had cool conversations with a couple fans while waiting in line. And I got some stickers, and I did get some art pieces. Let's see if I can grab them real quick. I don't have the ones that I got signed from my mom because she already has them framed in her room at her place, but I did get this one from someone. She was just thrilled that I even knew what it was from, and I'm like, how could someone not? And I got that one, and I got that one to go beside my Thackeray Binks one, so that it'll look cute together. She was really thrilled that it was going to be by someone who was actually in the movie, and then I got to meet him. So yeah, so that's how my convention went. I probably won't go to any held by those people anymore. Like, I'm going to research and make sure that I don't attend those. Emerald City wasn't as bad. It was pretty screwy, but it was nowhere near like that. So if I go to a convention, it's going to be a small convention that's just maybe a horror convention. They might be held better. I don't know. Not a fan. Anyway, wanted to share my experience. Hopefully, if you guys went to Rose City Comic Con, you had fun and that it wasn't a big catastrophe for you, because I heard from this one gal who showed up early for her time ticket, and she was told that she couldn't be there early. She had to be there exactly on time. So nobody knew the real thing. Rose City, get it together. What the heck?